Okay, so the lesson that we're doing today is Module 5, Lesson 18, and this is actually going to be our last lesson of the week because the next lesson starts a new topic, and we're not going to start a new topic before spring break, so the next 2 days I'll just be giving you activities to do on the computer, like websites to play games, or you can log on to Zearn. But for today, we're doing Lesson 18, and by the end of the day, or the lesson, you'll be able to say, I can practice placing various fractions on the number line. The materials that you need for today's lesson are your whiteboard supplies, your page 77 and 79 from your workbook, and a pencil. Okay, so this first one you do not have to do on your whiteboard. I'm just going to show you how to do it so that you know how, and then I have one that we'll do together. So the question is, which is greater, 3 or 10/4? Now it's hard to do it on my computer. It's easier to just write it out. We know that 10/4 we really write like this, 10/4. So what is greater, 3 or 10/4? So in order to do that, it wants us to draw a number line to show. So I'm going to draw my number line. I'm just going to go ahead and start at 0. And I know that 0 is the same thing as 0/4. And then I'm going to do 1 whole. And I know this has to be broken up into 4 pieces, so I'm going to split it in half and split it in half again. And then we're just going to kind of do this together. We're going to start making our number line until we have both 3 and 10/4 represented. So I have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, which is the same as 1 whole. But so far we have not gotten to 3 wholes and we have not gotten to 10/4, so we have to keep going. So I'm going to put a 2, and then I'm going to split this up into fourths, and we'll keep labeling. So after 4 comes 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. We still have not gotten to 3 wholes, and we still have not gotten to 10/4. So right now we still don't know which is bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 wholes, and I'm going to break this part up into fourths, and we're going to keep counting. We're at 8, 9/4, 10/4, and I'm going to stop right there because I realized that I just got to 10/4. So here is 10/4, and here is 3 wholes. So I know that 10/4 is smaller because we got to it before we got to 3 wholes. And if we were to continue, then we would have 11/4 and 12/4. So 3 wholes is really the same as 12/4. And then when we look at it in that fraction form that way, we can see that 12 is greater than 10. Now it says to use one of these symbols to compare. So this symbol here means less than, this one means greater than, or equal to. The way that you can remember these two symbols is that it's kind of like a crocodile. Okay, so I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger over here. It's kind of like a crocodile. Here's the crocodile, and it's eating. There's its eyes, okay? And the crocodile always wants to eat the bigger number. So those symbols the open part is always going to be next to the bigger number, and that's because the crocodile wants to eat the bigger number. So if I have 3 and I have 10/4, we want the crocodile to face the bigger number. We figured out that 3 was the bigger number, so we're going to put that symbol, which is the greater than symbol. 3 is greater than 10/4. Okay, now this is the part where if you have your whiteboard with you and you want to get it out, you can go along with me. So now we have new numbers. Same question, which is greater, 2/6 or 1/3? Draw a number line to show. So I'm going to start by drawing my number line. Now, both of these fractions are less than 1 whole because if I rewrite them, this is 2/6 and this is 1/3. The top number for each of them is smaller than the bottom number, and if the top number is smaller, we know it's less than 1 whole. So that means that I can start at 0 and end at 1. So then let's start with 2/6. So I have to make 6ths. So I'm going to break this up first in half and then each side into thirds. And now I have 6 parts. And I need to get to 2/6. So I'm actually going to do that in blue. So here I have 0/6, 1/6, 2/6. And I'm going to stop right there because I got to my 2/6. Well, now the tricky part is that I have to do 1/3. So I'm going to do 1/3 in pink. Now, right now my number line is broken into 6ths. I need it broken into thirds. So I'm going to break it into thirds, and my thirds line is actually going to be in the same place as 2 of the 6th lines. So if you see 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces, each of those pieces is 2/6 long. So they're all equal pieces. Now I'm going to label my thirds. First I have 0/3, and at my first line I have 1/3. So 1/3 falls on the same line as 2/6 does. So when we rewrite that, we're going to write 2/6, 1/3, and they are equal because they fall on the same line. Okay, that's going to go ahead and take us to our problem set. Problem set is page, I want to say 77. 77. On page 77, make sure you write your name. While you're doing that, I'm going to read the directions. It says, place the 2 fractions on the number line. Circle the fraction with the distance closest to 0. Then compare using greater than, less than, or equal to. The first problem is done for you. So that first one they did for us. They had 1/4 and they had 3/4. And when they labeled it, which for some reason, I don't know if your workbook is like this, but mine is not right. 4/4 should be over here. 3/4 should be here. And 2/4 should be right here. I don't know if that's something with the printing that lined up wrong or what. But either way, we can still see that 1/4 is closest to 0, so it is the smaller fraction. So 3/4 being the bigger fraction, the alligator opens towards 3/4 because the alligator wants to eat the bigger number. So that takes us to number 2. Number 2 they've not done for us, so we're going to have to do that one. But we see that both numbers have a 6 on the bottom. So we're going to break our number line into 6 equal pieces. First I break it in half. Then I break each side into thirds. Now I have 6 pieces. I'm going to start labeling. First I have 0 sixths, 1 sixth, 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4 sixths, 5 sixths, 6 sixths, or 1 whole. Now circle the fraction with the distance closest to 0. So 2 sixths or 3 sixths, which one is closest to 0? Well, the 2 is closest to 0. That's the smaller fraction, so we're going to circle that smaller fraction, which means that our alligator is going to eat the bigger number, which is 3 sixths. As always, if you need to pause the video to catch up, feel free to do so. I'm going to go ahead and move on to number 3. Number 3 is 1/2 and 1/4. So the bottom numbers are not the same, so we need to be able to break this into half and into fourths. So first I'm going to start with half, which is just right down the middle. Next I need fourths. Well, we know to get fourths, you break it in half, which we already did, and break it in half again. Now, if I'm labeling my halves, I start with, we're going to do halves in blue. 0 halves, 1 half, 2 halves, which is 1 whole. And I'm going to go ahead and do the fourths in pink. So at the first line we have 0 fourths, 1 fourth. At the same line as 1 half we have 2 fourths. This line is 3 fourths. And at the same spot as 2 halves we have 4 fourths, which is also 1 whole. So some of those fractions actually share a line, which we're going to learn about later when we start talking about equivalent fractions, which means 2 fractions that equal the same thing. So you can see that these 2 fractions are on the same line, they equal the same thing. These 2 fractions are on the same line, so even though the number on bottom is different, they actually are the same length. And same thing over here. But that's something we'll learn about a little bit later on. Right now we're comparing 1 half and 1 fourth, and remember they want us to circle the one that is closest to 0. So here is 1 half, here is 1 fourth, which is closer to 0, so we're going to circle 1 fourth, which means that 1 half is bigger, so our alligator wants to eat the bigger number, which is 1 half. Okay, so now we are going to do 2/3 and 2 sixths. The top number is the same, but the bottom number is different. Well, you have a little bit of an advantage because we did already do the problem earlier that was sixths and thirds. So first let's break into thirds. So that's 3 equal pieces. Let's go ahead and label that. 0 thirds, 1 third, 2 thirds, 3 thirds, which is the same as 1 whole. Now we need to break into sixths. So I'm going to break each of my thirds in half, which my spacing is a little off, but there's still 6 pieces there. Now I'm going to label my sixths. So the first one, 0 sixths, shares the same line, which is this one. Then right here we have 1 sixth. 2 sixths shares the same line with 1 third. 3 sixths. 4 sixths, which shares the same line as 2 thirds. 5 sixths. And 6 sixths, which shares the same line as 3 thirds and is also the same as 1 whole. So it wants us to circle the one that is closest to 0. So first 2 thirds, which is right here in blue, and then 2 sixths, which is right here in pink, and the 2 sixths one is closer to 0 than the 2 thirds, so we're going to circle 2 sixths, which means that 2 thirds is actually bigger. So our alligator is going to open towards oh, I did that the wrong way. I'm sorry. We want our alligator to open towards 2 thirds. 2 thirds is the bigger number. Okay, so that brings us to our last one, which is 11 eighths and 7 fourths. So you might notice here, this one's a little more challenging, but the 1, it starts at 1 instead of 0. So we have to figure out what 1 whole is in eighths. So if we do our picture and break it into 8 pieces, I kind of did that a little weird. It's a little bit harder with this computer pen. Okay, so we have 8 equal pieces, which is the same as 1 whole. So 1 whole is really 8 eighths. Okay. So we're going to break that up into 8 pieces, knowing that we start at 8 eighths. So break it in half. Break it in half again, then we're in fourths. And then break each of those in half again. So now that's broken into eighths. I'm going to go ahead and finish labeling those eighths. I'm at 8, 9 eighths, 10 eighths, 11 eighths, 12 eighths, 13 eighths, 14 eighths, 15 eighths, and finally 16 eighths, which is the same as 2 wholes. So now I need fourths. Well, if I draw my circle and break it into 4, 1 whole is the same as 4 fourths. I'm going to do this down below since we're kind of out of room on top. But 8 eighths is going to share the same line as 4 fourths. Now, we want to try to imagine that the line is broken into fourths. So we're going to go over it with pink so that you can see it better. So first, to get into fourths, we divide it in half and then break it in half again. And now we're only going to label those fourths. So we start at 4 fourths, 5 fourths, 6 fourths, 7 fourths, 8 fourths. Now notice that 8 eighths and 4 fourths are the same as 1 whole. 10 eighths is the same as 5 fourths. 12 eighths is the same as 6 fourths. 14/8 is the same as 7/4, and 16/8 is the same as 8/4. So those numbers share a line, which means their fractions are the same size. Now let's go back and find our 11/8. 11/8 is here. Next we need 7/4. 7/4 is way over here. So obviously our 11/8 is closest to 0, which would be way over here past the 1. So 11/8 is the smaller fraction, which means 7/4 is the bigger fraction. So our alligator wants to eat 7/4 because it is bigger. All right, so that is what you're going to be doing on your homework today. So I'm going to switch us over to the homework. Once again, the last one is a little more challenging. So when you get to the homework, just try your best on number 5 and really focus on getting the other ones. Your homework is page 79. Make sure you have your name on page 79. Circle 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to start the timer. You'll have 10 minutes. Give it your best try to get as far as you can. It is a lot of writing and it's a lot of breaking up fractions. If you do have some crayons or colored pencils or markers, it might help you to try to do the homework in different colors, kind of like how I did a different color for each fraction. It does help you visualize a little bit better when you're breaking up the number line. But once again, that's up to you, however it works best for you. So 10 minutes, then go ahead, hop on Zearn, complete lesson 18. And like I said, this will be our last lesson for the week. So you will have the next 2 days to practice on Zearn and do some other fun math games up until spring break. See if my timer is going to start up. There we go. Okay, everyone, so go ahead and stop where you're at with that homework. Thanks for taking the time to do that, and thanks for doing all of these lessons from home. That's going to be the last lesson until after spring break is over, so this will be the last lesson until April. So go ahead and make sure you put your workbook or your papers in a safe place so that you have them ready to bring back when we come back to school. So probably in your backpack or some other place that your parents have that's safe that you'll remember them. And for the next 2 days, I will have other math-related activities for you to do.